Well, good evening. This is Handlock Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening from a confined situation. We're now in day 14 of self-isolation and a virtual shutdown of all businesses in certainly the Ontario, but more likely the world as well. I'm not quite sure what the amount of people are that are in lockdown right now, but I'm hearing half the world, essentially. India is in lockdown. Can you imagine? 1.2 billion people in lockdown. That is just absolutely incredible. Now, luckily myself, I've been able to keep myself quite busy. I've got quite a few things to do. There's been some work to do in the house, which I wanted to finish off before the summer gets here. But I'm sure, like yourselves, I have been feeling a little bit of cognitive dissonance, because when I'm in my house and when I'm in my backyard, things seem so unbelievably normal. It is beyond belief. And yet when I go out for a drive to the store to go and get something, you can see it's desolate. It's like a ghost town. It's like living in another world. And so you have these two things being held in your mind, where one seems like nothing has changed at all, and the other one is where everything has absolutely changed. And you know, it's kind of put everyone in this state of mind where you can't make a decision, that you can't make a plan. This is like getting a cancer diagnosis. All of a sudden, all future planning comes to an end. That addition that you might have been wanting to put on the house, the trip you were planning to take, maybe you're planning to get married, maybe you're planning to have a child, well, whatever it is you're planning to do, it has now come to a grinding halt, and we are living very much in the present, and there is nothing we can do. We can't move forward until there is some kind of resolve to the current outbreak. And now what I'm kind of concerned with, what I'm seeing around the world, and I'm certainly seeing in Ontario here, is that there is no clear exit plan here. There is no point in time when they say, okay, the hospital system is been beefed up, we have all the ICUs and whatever we need, masks and so on and so forth, to take on a wave of sick people. So we can now start loosening down on the lockdown, let people start going back to work, and start the economy rolling again. Because as I say, we're not actually going to stop this situation, this outbreak. We are merely going to slow it down. And there is only one thing worse than this kind of outbreak, and that is this kind of outbreak combined with a depression. And very shortly, we are going to be going into, if not a depression, a very steep recession. Now, I am a small business owner. I have a barber shop, so my whole business has been curtailed, and so I have had no income whatsoever. I've been living off my savings, and they will be depleted in a very short period of time. Now, the government has offered to pay $2,000 a month for those people who have lost an income, but you are not able to work during that. You can't supplement that income. It is only $2,000 a month, and you have to try and survive on that and keep your business liquid. Again, luckily, because I run a very small operation, it's just an owner-operator, I really don't have a huge overhead. But at least half of that $2,000, if not more, will be taken up in just paying rent, paying the hydro bill, paying the water bill and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and just maintaining the situation so when there is an opportunity to go back to work, and again, luckily I will be able to start up immediately. There will be no wait time for my business to come back online. But for many other businesses, this is not going to be an easy situation. I see with the $2,000 that the government is going to give everybody, you have to have a CRA, which is the Canada Revenue Agency account. Well, who knew that? I mean, I don't have a CRA account, and I'm sure that there are thousands of other people don't have a CRA account. So when you go onto the CRA website and you register for an account, guess what? Well, first thing, they ask you 5 security questions, And boy, oh boy, I mean, I've heard of a couple of security questions, but 5 seems a little over the top. But then, oh, they have to mail you your security login, and that takes between 5 and 10 days. So however long it takes for that money to arrive in my mailbox or in my bank account. So you've got to have a bank account with direct deposit details. You have to wait 5 to 10 days for your registration to go through. Then you have to apply, and then you have to wait however long. Now they're saying it's going to be about a week. But, you know, that sounds great. But, you know, we've been having 250,000 people a week lining up for unemployment claims. In America, it's been a staggering 3 million in the first week of this. I mean, that is an unbelievable amount, and it hasn't abated. I think it's up to 2.5 million in the second week have registered for unemployment, and they're now talking at the end of Q2 that America could be looking at between 30 to 50% unemployment. This is greater than depression unemployment figures. So this is going to be a financial disaster, and because we don't have an end time, you know, I think that in a situation like this, certainly from the figures we've been getting, it is the elderly that should be confined to their homes because they are the most at risk. The nursing homes are in a terrible situation. Prisons are in a terrible situation because these people are terribly vulnerable. And in a nursing home, Bobcaygeon, we've had now 28 deaths from this outbreak. And it is an absolute, it's a horror show. However, this will pass, and we will have to get ourselves back to normal, but we are getting very, very close to the point. And I believe if this runs through till July, and I will show you up on the screen right now an article from the National Post, that they obtained a secret document that said we could be under isolation until July. July. That is March, April, May, June, July. That is 4 full months. It's going to be insane for families with children, especially once the warmer weather gets here. It is going to be very, very difficult to keep especially your teenagers at home, who are natural risk takers. But you know, if this goes on till July, it will almost be in an unrecoverable position. And all of those people who have pensions, especially private pensions, you know, if I'm living on $2,000 a month, which is $2,000 a year below the poverty line, okay, $24,000 is $2,000 a month, and $26,500 a year is the poverty line. So you will be living in poverty. So guess how much money I will be spending on just things that aren't important. Absolutely zero. And as George Carlin says in one of his fantastic skits, that this economy needs everybody buying things that they don't need with money they don't have. Buying things you don't need with money they don't have. Because if we don't do that, the economy doesn't keep going. And the only way we can do that is by being able to make a minimum payment on our credit cards and our line of credit loans and so on and so forth. People have taken out equity mortgages. All of a sudden, house prices are going to stall, if not decrease, but certainly they're going to stay where they are. Nobody is thinking of buying or selling a home right now, and no bank is going to guarantee any kind of mortgage money to somebody who is only collecting $2,000 a month. And so this is, I guess, a very neat way to bring in a universal basic income. And of course, many of these things that are taking place are really beyond our control at our level. What was I read? A friend of mine post on Facebook, the decisions are being made at a level above our pay grade, and we don't have a way of finding out what's going on. But whatever is going on, it is absolutely freaking huge, my friends. And again, it's James Corbett. I can highly recommend James Corbett if you want to get some real good news. Amazing Polly and James Corbett. And James was saying the other day in one of his commentaries is that absolutely the reset button has been pressed. And one way or another, we are going into a reset, and whatever we knew prior to 2020 will no longer be around into the future. And so we consider 2020 as year zero, and how we want to go on is very much up to us now. Now there is a couple of things that I am going to read to you, not in this video. This is basically just a bit of a rant going on here, and an analysis of what's happening, on the ground. But one is by Henry Kissinger, and he constantly refers in this piece to how governments have to adapt to the new paradigm very quickly and institute rules to govern society under the rules of the Enlightenment. So again, this is the globalist move for individual governments to enact the general globalist mantra. Although I can't see how globalism is ever going to run in a way that it has run before, because we're not going to have global trade anymore. Every country is basically going to nationalize, and we are going to manage our resources ourselves, and we are going to start manufacturing the things that we need ourselves. And again, this is going to lead to an awful disparity. Luckily in Canada, we have every resource known to humankind and every technology that every modern first world country has at its fingertips. So we could actually very quickly gear up. Certainly with, the plants at GM, for example, are barely even cool. And I would imagine that GM is going to be beating a hasty retreat at some time soon, especially when they drag out some of their execs and shoot them on the steps of their head offices in Beijing. Because that's how it works with the the Chinese Communist Party. This is a repressive regime, ladies and gentlemen. They have hidden this outbreak. They've known about this for far longer than they are letting on, and they did not tell anybody until January the 22nd, and not even the WHO, the World Health Organization, who are in league with China, told anybody. They kept it a huge secret. They allowed 5 million people to leave between the 22nd and the 24th of January, and they flew all over the world. And so the blame for this lies squarely at the feet of China and the CCP, and they should be considering reparations to the rest of the world for the damage caused. Because I'm sure, again, like myself and many of you out there, this is going to deplete all of my savings. It is going to, all my credit cards are blown out now. Okay, so I have no more credit left available, and my fixed expenses are continuing on unabated. Okay, so when we hit next winter, and this is what I am really concerned about, is that when we hit September of this year, everyone's resources will be absolutely depleted. The government payments will have stopped because they will not be able to, even with modern money theory, MMT, where you just basically print to oblivion. There is a consequence for that. This is what led to the Weimar Republic, where there's a story of a person who had a wheelbarrow full of money, and he went into the bakery to find out what it cost for a loaf of bread, and when he came back, someone had stolen the wheelbarrow and left the money, because the money was absolutely worthless because it was printed into oblivion. And so whatever money we get, after this, will just be lessened in value, and we will be even deeper in poverty. And what are we going to do this for every virus, every new flu that comes along? Is this going to be the way we're going to deal with things? And so, sorry, I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but the Henry Kissinger piece, I will read that in my next video. And then there is a retired judge in England, talking about how quickly we're moving towards a police state. And the police are not enforcing the law, but arbitrary whims of politicians. And there's been some absolutely outrageous stuff happening in England, where people being in a park absolutely alone, intimidated into going back into their homes. Yes, we should be self-isolating until we see where this outbreak is going to go, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to be absolutely confined to your home. And if you want to take a walk in the country down some trail of a conservation area that is open, and you are alone, or you're with a person who you're cohabiting, or you maintain a safe distance, there is absolutely no problem with going out, getting some sunshine and some exercise. And of course, at the very time, and this is what I quite about there's so many things I'm questioning about this situation. The propaganda, the relentlessness. Every channel you turn to, every YouTube video now is about the outbreak. There is a single topic only. As I said, plans have come to a halt, and we are being absolutely saturated. And certainly at the present time, even worldwide figures, they would have to have a steep increase to match where the flu figures for the year were. Now, I understand about exponential growth, so don't bug me about that, but certainly the figures as they stand, we would need to see a significant increase in the next 2 weeks to justify continuing this lockdown until July. And as I say, even that is not a firm date. And Fauci, the chief medical officer down in the States there, Trump's advisor, has said he wants to see absolutely 0 cases. Okay, well, any scientist will tell you that there will never be a 0 cases now that it's out in the open. Every year there are all kinds of different flus that have happened in the past are happening somewhere in the world, whether it is a minor flare-up or a major flare-up. Once a particular strain has come out in the open and developed, it will lie dormant, and it will pop up anywhere. There will always be people who will not have any immunity and who are vulnerable to exposure. So what are we looking at here? Forever, lockdown forever, and what about the next one, and the next one, and the next one? As I said, there's only one thing worse than this outbreak, and that is this outbreak combined with a depression. And so, when we add all of this up, yes, we're in a situation, we are in uncharted territory, but this is no reason for the government not to be absolutely forthright with us, tell us exactly what is happening and what the plan is, have a predetermined point which is going to be an exit point where the medical situation can handle a surge, but that we all have to go out there at some point and take our chances in the wilderness, because that's the way life is on this planet. We have never, ever, ever come up with a solution for the common cold, which is exactly the same kind of bug. It's just a different variety of the same bug, okay? So I wouldn't put any hopes on that. And the other remedies, certainly not a cure, but they ameliorate the worst of the effects. And it seems to be the filling of the lungs with fluid, which is the worst of the situation. But as I say, we are in a tough situation, and but it's not a time that we should allow the cognitive dissonance which is setting in. And I know what it feels like. It is very disorienting, and I am expecting changes, huge changes, because the system that we had just could not go on as it was. It was coming to an end anyway, and this has just kind of brought it ahead a little bit. But the kind of draconian measures that are being put into place right now, we should be, whether it be electronically or on the telephone or whatever it is, be telling our politicians that absolutely no way are we bringing in martial law, and that we are going to get the truth about what is going on and how we're going to behave and what the plan is moving forward long term. Because we have to have some kind of a plan long term. And I think that it is crazy that the planners, and there are planners, there are central planners who look at all kinds of outcomes for situations that have occurred or may occur, that they haven't thought of this. And right now the cure will kill more people than the disease itself. Well, that's my summation of the situation, and so as a follow-up you will be getting these two pieces. So look out for the two new videos I'll be putting up after this, with the articles that I mentioned before, from the judge and from Henry Kissinger, our good old friend. God bless his pointed little head, Henry Kissinger. 93 years old, I think he is. My God, unbelievable. He is definitely in a high risk category. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we will talk to you very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye. Oh, and take care of yourself.